Welcome back to our Category Blog Mastery series. In part 1, we built the systematic foundations with proper article sorting and positioning. But we left a critical gap, one that prevents everything else from working properly. Without read more breaks, your category blog displays entire articles as overwhelming text dumps. And without the right template foundation, you're missing the framework for the advanced layout techniques we'll cover in part 3 and beyond. Today, we're completing the structure foundation part of this with 2 essential elements: read more breaks that create clean professional previews, and the Astroid framework that positions us for the 5 distinct layout strategies coming in part 3, which we will take to the next level in part 4. This isn't about quick fixes or surface level improvements. We're building the solid foundation that makes advanced techniques possible. Things like overlay layouts, masonry presentations, and sophisticated visual controls that only work when your content structure is rock solid. By the end of this tutorial, you will have clean, scannable content previews instead of text walls, a professional template framework quietly ready for enhancements, and complete understanding of how these foundational elements support the advanced strategies we'll explore next. Before we tackle read more functionality, let's upgrade our testing environment by switching from the default Joomla template to the Astroid framework, including a pre-installed template. This switch will give us a cleaner foundation and unlock powerful options we'll explore later in this series. To fully appreciate the upgrade, let's examine our current setup first. So before having Astroid installed, we navigate to Menus, Main Menu, and we click on the Layout Testing menu to edit the menu item. Notice the standard Joomla tabs: Details, Blog Layout, Options, etc. These are the core Joomla configuration options we've been working with to date. Let's check out a typical article. We go to Content, Articles, and we edit the King article. Again, notice the standard Joomla tabs: Content, Images, and Links, etc. Now we're going to have a look at the front end. And notice the current Joomla default template, styling, which is functional but basic. This is our before state for comparison purposes. This baseline inspection is important because it shows us exactly what core Joomla provides before any Astroid framework enhancements. Now it's time to download and install the Astroid framework. Now I already downloaded this and I have it here on my computer, so I need to locate it. And let's go back to Joomla and we go to Extensions, Install. And we install the Astroid framework package. And of course the Astroid 2 template is included in this. Now the Astroid framework enhances category blog layouts while respecting Joomla's configuration hierarchy. It adds template level overrides that work seamlessly with your existing workflow. Everything you've learned about Joomla's configuration system remains exactly the same. Whilst other Joomla frameworks exist, T3, Gantry 5, Helix Ultimate, Astroid offers the tightest integration that feels most Joomla native. It enhances rather than replaces Joomla's core functionality. Now it's time to activate our template. So we're going to navigate to Templates, Styles. We find Astroid 2 in the list, and we click the radio button, the empty circle, next to Astroid 2 to select it. This makes the template the default template. Now a quick front-end check. Let's visit our layout testing page again. We refresh. This is our after state for the same content structure with enhanced visual presentation. This comparison demonstrates how Astroid enhances Joomla's output without changing your underlying configuration. All your blog layout settings article ordering and menu options work identically with a more polished look. Let's finally polish the article display by configuring global settings that impact every article on your site. These are those small little annoying elephants that I referred to in the first episode of this series. So we're going to navigate to Global Article Settings. We're going to go to System, Global Configuration. So we're looking at our components here. And we're looking at Articles, which is the first item here in this list on the left-hand side. And then we want to go to the first tab on the left-hand side. So we're kind of articles, if you will. Now finally getting around to clearing up this clutter. We set Show Author to hide, Show Category to hide, and Show Publish Date to hide. We're going to leave all of the other settings as they are for the moment. And we click Save. Refreshing our front end, specifically our layout testing page, we notice how articles now display without the author, category, and date clutter. But, and this is a big but, hits and read time still display. Honestly, I forgot hits, but read time is kind of a bit of an odd one. And this brings me to, for want of a better expression, my halfway house theory, which I will want to prove or disprove sooner rather than later. The halfway house scenario. What on earth am I talking about here? Installing Astroid on an already largely configured Joomla site creates a transitional state where two metadata systems overlap, leading to unexpected behavior. This differs from a clean installation where Astroid is installed from the start. Now the problem. During the screencast for this tutorial, I discovered an interesting quirk that's worth examining rather than editing out. After disabling metadata in the previous chapter, both hits and read time were still appearing on our articles. Now the logical part is, of course, I had simply forgotten to disable hits in the Joomla global configuration section. But the mystery part is that read time was also displaying and still is. Now read time is an Astroid Framework feature, not Joomla, and Joomla's global configuration has no read time setting. Now of course what's going on here is that Joomla and Astroid are integrating seamlessly, and at this point we're going to start just pulling a little bit at the seams. And now for a little plot twist. In the System Global Configuration Articles section, we set the Show Hits to hide. Now note there is no read time setting here. That is controlled by Astroid. We're going to click Save and Close and refresh the front end. The results are somewhat unexpected. Both elements disappear completely, hits and read time, and we haven't even touched read time. And this is the real mystery here. If we check Astroid settings, we navigate to System, Site Template Styles, we select the Astroid 2 template, we go to Template Options, we scroll all the way down here to the Article and Blog options, and we look at the Article Listing options. We discover that read time is still activated in Astroid's equivalent of Article Global Settings. So why isn't it displaying when Astroid should have independent control over its own features? The halfway house thesis. In our halfway house scenario, where Astroid was installed on a more or less pre-configured Joomla site, we're witnessing something pretty interesting. Joomla's global settings are taking precedence over Astroid's template-specific controls. At least that's my theory. When you disable metadata globally in Joomla, it's effectively telling the system no article metadata of any kind, thank you very much, which overrides Astroid's more granular show read time setting, even though read time is purely an Astroid feature. This hierarchy conflict occurs because the original Joomla configuration remains as the parent authority, making Astroid's settings secondary to these pre-existing global rules. This behavior reveals a critical insight about halfway house installations. Joomla's global configuration can override framework-specific settings, even for features that belong entirely to the framework. However, I believe in a clean Astroid installation, installed from the start, the Astroid article blog listing options would have full autonomy. It would be valuable to do some A/B testing by creating a fresh menu item to see if the Astroid settings function independently when there's no pre-existing Joomla configuration to conflict with. And of course, we will explore this and other Astroid Framework interactions in future chapters in this series and on this channel. Now, the key takeaway here is kind of always the same key takeaway, on this channel at least. When developing sites, especially in halfway house scenarios, it's important to understand that multiple control systems may be interacting. You always need to test thoroughly and don't get discouraged by minor configuration conflicts. They often reveal deeper insights about how frameworks work and interact. Now, I think it's apparent that the removal of all of this clutter does actually make it easier to focus on the content we are presenting throughout our site. And bear in mind, we can also do something very similar on a menu by menu basis. So we can have different configurations depending on the menu we are looking at if we so require or desire. Now, whilst we're at it, let's make one more adjustment. Now, we're still here in the system global configuration, specifically articles section of the Joomla backend, and we're going to skid over to the blog featured layouts tab. Now, before making changes, let's just have a look at the front end, just do a refresh, and we note the current single column layout that we currently have. All articles from the king article, the leading article, all the way down are arranged in one column. We're going to make a column layout change. So looking for the column field, we're going to set it to 2 instead of 1, and we're going to click Save and Close. Refreshing our layout testing page, we notice how the articles now display. We still have the leading article up at top, the king article, but we now have 2 columns arranged below that. This simple change creates a more dynamic magazine-style presentation whilst maintaining all of our content structure work to date. And remember, this is being applied globally. At the moment, we only have one menu, which is displaying a category blog item. But if we were to add more, this would be applied globally. And we could also have exceptions to the rules if we so desired or required. Now, with our enhanced template environment in place, let's tackle the most important missing piece from our setup: read more breaks. This is where we gently escort the elephant from the premises. Let's talk about why read more breaks are non-negotiable. Without read more breaks, your category blog displays entire articles, creating an unmanageable mess. Read more breaks create clean, consistent previews that make your layouts both scannable and manageable, regardless of which template you're using. The beauty of fixing this fundamental issue now is that clean read more previews work perfectly with basic templates and become even more powerful when enhanced with advanced visual features, which we'll be looking at later. We're building the right foundation first. We're going to start with our first article. We go to Content, Articles, and we click on the King article to edit it. And now that we've installed Astroid, notice how the article editor interface has been modified. Now, comparing this to the fewer tabs we saw in Chapter 2, Astroid has added several new tabs, providing direct access to powerful Astroid Framework functionality and bringing more advanced options right into the article editing workflow. Just like Joomla's global versus individual article settings hierarchy, Astroid offers the same flexible approach. You can set defaults globally through the Astroid backend, then override them on a case-by-case basis at the article level when specific content demands it. This is an example of seamless integration between Astroid and Joomla, and we will see similar examples when working with the menu items later in this series. In the content editor, we position our cursor after the first paragraph, and we click. Now, we're going to look at the menu up at the top left-hand corner here, and we are going to look for the Read More option in the editor toolbar. It looks like a page break symbol. Now, at this point, when we click it, we're going to see a red dashed line appear. And this is our Read More break. It's directly after our first paragraph. Now we can save. Now we can test the front end to see the impact. Returning to our layout testing page and refreshing, we notice how the King article now shows only the first paragraph with a Read More link. The cluttered article below has now vanished. We see how the Astroid template renders this more elegantly than our default Joomla template would have. This is essentially the first of several major steps that we have been building towards. Now, continuing with the remaining articles, the Queen article, for example, it's pretty much the same story here with the Read More break after the first paragraph. And then we move on and we edit the Rook article, adding the Read More break after the first paragraph, refresh the front end again, and we notice how each edition creates cleaner, more consistent previews. We're going to complete all articles at this point, adding Read More breaks to all of the remaining articles: Bishop, Knight, Pawn 1, Pawn 2, Pawn 3, and each should have the break after the first paragraph for consistency, and the paragraphs should have roughly the same length. So now it's time for our final front-end review. We're going to refresh the layout testing page, and we marvel at the transformation. Clean, scannable previews instead of overwhelming full articles. Navigating to page 2, we see how the remaining articles also display cleanly, and we can click through a few Read More links to confirm that they work properly. This simple addition transforms your category blog from an overwhelming dump of full articles to a clean magazine-style layout. Users can quickly scan previews and choose what interests them. Exactly how modern content consumption works. With Read More breaks in place, and Astroid quietly enhancing our setup, we're ready to add the visual elements that transform our layout. We're going to navigate to the Joomla Media Manager. So we go to Content, Media, and create a folder, which I will call Chess. I'm going to click Upload and find and select all chess pieces on my computer. I'm uploading them to my newly created folder, Chess, and I'm on a Mac, so I'm selecting Open, and my guess is that on a PC or Linux, this step will be very similar. I'm uploading all of the images in one foul swoop. Now it's time to add our images to each article. We're going to go to Content, Articles, edit the King article first, obviously because he's the king, and we click on the Images and Links tab. In the Intro Image field, we click Select and choose our King image from the Media Manager. We can add an alt text, so for example, King chess piece, which is good for accessibility. Save and close. Now we're going to repeat this for all articles. So Queen article, we're going to put in the Queen image. We can add an alt text. We can do the Rook article, an image, text, Bishop article, image, text, Knight article, and so on and so forth. We do the Pawn 1, the Pawn 2, and the Pawn 3. And I believe that the pattern is apparent. Now, after all of these tweaks in the back end, I think it's high time to refresh our layout testing page. A lot has changed. Notice how the images now appear with each article preview alongside read more links. Observe how the king article, the leading article, shows its image as the main focus and is plastered all over the top of the first page. The inter-articles display with images as well. The visual impact is dramatically improved over the plain text version. With images now integrated, our systematic approach has created clean, engaging previews. The combination of read more breaks, enhanced template stylings, and professionally, well, admittedly AI-generated images gives us exactly what modern category blog layouts require. You now have the strong foundation needed for sophisticated category blog strategies, from corporate magazine layouts to dynamic visual showcases that harness both Joomla's systematic controls and Astroid's enhanced presentation capabilities. Next up in part 3, we're going to be demonstrating some distinct layout strategies that truly showcase what's possible when the groundwork is done right.